it's Melanie again from the Mango Paint line. Today I'm doing part 2 of a little series we're doing as I reclaim this cute little table. In part 1 of the series we painted the base of the table. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's Evelyn. It's a beautiful color. We've got one coat on there. The top though, we sanded down to raw wood because I want to create a stain using our Charlie, which is our rich brown. I'm going to create a stained look on the top of this table, which you can do with mango paint because it is a water-based paint. And essentially it goes on very similar to a water-based stain would once we dilute it with water. So this tabletop was in pretty rough shape when it came to us, but it's a super cute table. So we sanded the top down. We did varying grits. So you start with your grittier grit to get your sanding done. You want to keep going until you get to around a 200 or even a 250 to get a nice smooth surface here. And then you want to remove any dust, and then you can mix up your paint as a stain. So I'm going to mix up in this big jar, but I do not need this much stain. I only need like this much stain, but that's what I'm going to use today. So I'm going to take my Charlie. I'm going to give it a bit of a shake. I always like to give my paint a really good stir when I first open it. So I'm going to open up this can. Stir. This one has just recently been used, so again, it doesn't really need a stir, but it's always good practice to give it a good stir to start. Today to apply the stain, I'm going to be using our smooth brushes. So we have these ultra super smooth brushes. The bristles on these are like, oh my god, they feel like makeup brushes almost. They're so soft. They come in 3 different sizes. We've got a 2-inch, a 3-inch, and a 4-inch. I love using the 3-inch brush to apply a stain, so that's what I'm going to use today. I'm going to use my 2-inch just to clean off this stir stick here. So you can see if we were applying Charlie as a solid, this is the color that we would be getting, a super solid opaque coverage with, as you saw, just one coat there. But we want to be able to see all this wood grain through and make it look more like a stain. So I'm going to water my paint down quite a bit. I'm going to pour a tiny, it's more like cooking than it is like baking. So there's not an exact science here. It's really about the feel. When I'm creating a stain for anything that's raw wood, you always want to err on the side of going lighter than you think. So which means I will use less paint than I think, because it's easy to darken a stain. But if you apply a stain from the start and it's too dark, you cannot lighten it, right? It's hard to go backwards, but it's always easy to add additional layers to make it darker if you want to. So I'm going to pour a tiny amount of paint in here. Not very much at all. I'm just going to clean the rim of my can here because I don't like to let paint sit in here and dry. And then I just have water here, just like room temperature water, and I'm going to pour a bunch of this in here. I'm going to start there. And then I'm going to take my stir stick and give that a stir. Paint, it's a water-based paint, so we're mixing water into a water-based paint. Essentially, we're just making it waterier. But because mango paint is porous and water-based, mixing it with water to create a stain is a really easy and beautiful thing to do. So you can always take your, I don't want to take my brush that I used to clean because this has a lot of paint on it still, right? So I would end up with some more solid. So you can always take your brush, offload some on here. Again, it's going to be super watery, and I can test it out on my paint stir stick there. So you can already see the difference between solid paint, can you see that in the camera? Between the solid paint and a stain. And this may even be a little darker than I want to go. So I'm going to add a little bit more water so that when I apply it, if it goes darker than I want, it's easy for me to lighten it. So I'm going to remove that, add a bit more water, and then I'm going to stir again. Now, normally I would not do this stirring and stain creation right on top of your raw wood project. It's very risky. But I have a cardboard here that I'm using to protect it, and I just wanted to do it all sort of in one frame so you could see what I was doing. So I'm just giving this another stir. My handy assistant Allie is going to hand me a clean stir stick so that I can try that again. So again, I'm just going to, I always like to do a little tester on the paint stir stick. So there you can see it's going on very light now, which if I apply this to the table will be very easy to darken if I want to. Okay, so now we're ready to apply our stain. I'm just gonna make sure it's stirred really well. You always wanna make sure it's well stirred, especially if it sits for a little while, because the paint is heavier and will settle at the bottom, which means you'll get a lighter stain at the top and a darker stain at the bottom of your jar. So a good stir. Again, I'm using my 3-inch brush. I'm going to offload, and I'm just going to apply this in nice long strokes. Can you see that? It is gorgeous. You do want to work fairly quickly, but because it is so watery, you do have a bit of play as well. I hope that makes sense. You just want to make sure you don't have any paint pooling up in any spots. This looks so nice already. I cannot see the edge. I will do the whole top first, and then I will go around and do the lip on the table there. Oh my gosh. So again, I went super light on this. I could darken this if I wanted to, just by waiting for it to dry and applying another coat, or by adding more paint to my stain mix here. So you just want to get it on. For this application, you do want to make sure you're brushing in the direction of the grain of the wood. But this looks fabulous. If you've ever worked with a water-based stain before, this is a very similar technique. And again, the type of wood that you're going over will affect your finish as well. So a lot of times if we're doing a table that has a leaf, we will sand the underside of the leaf as well, as long as it's solid wood. And you can do some testing areas on the bottom underside of the leaf where it won't be seen, if you want to be sure before you create and apply your stain to the whole table. This is looking really nice. As it dries, it will start to get a lot lighter looking. But then once we apply a finish, because we will need to seal it because this is water-based, once we apply our finish, the color will come right back, like the depth, this depth that you see here. What you see when it's wet is generally what you will see as the finished product once you have the finish on it. And as it dries, like I said, it will start to get lighter and lighter. Again, I would not put your jar right on your thing as you're doing it. This is not best practice. I'm just trying to get everything in the screen for you. I would have this on a little side table, which I will do in just a second. So we're almost done. This whole tabletop. Such a cute little table. It's very rare for me to see a little pedestal table with a little oval top like this. I think it's so cute. So I'm just getting it on here, moving it around quickly, and I sort of overlap my previous lines so that I don't have any sort of start and stop areas. I use my brush to offload the stain, and then once my brush is fairly dry, that's when I'm going back and just doing sort of a once over. It's a big jar. Okay, we're almost done here. I see you, little drip. So you could also mix colors. The great thing about this is that you can make a stain virtually from any color in the Mango paint line. We've done this before with Noah. It looks really nice. It gives you sort of like a charcoaly stain, a darker stain. Ursula is obviously beautiful for like a black stain. We often will mix colors too, mixing a bit of Charlie and a little bit of Ursula together with water to create a stain also always creates a really beautiful look. So I'm almost at the end here. Just getting off any excess. This looks so good. You could also do it with any of the whites, right? If you wanted to create like a whitewash or a white kind of stained look, you could do that with any of the white colors as well. Coming around to the front. And I'm just gonna do this lip, hopefully you can see that. If you go over the top, just use your brush to smooth it out. Get out of the way so you can see. So I'll just continue that around the edge, and then once this is dry, I think I might actually do a second coat, because I think I do want this a little bit darker just for this project. But there you have it.